Hey folks, Mark Bazan here from the Society of Nonprofit Board Directors, as founders of the virtual association online for people who serve on the boards of non-for-profits, associations, charities, you name it, all alike. Here today in a rather interesting response, if you will, to a live stream I did a little bit about 2 weeks ago, actually. And it was an interesting one. I got a bit of a critique. I got a lot of people saying, Mark, right on, that's great. But I also got a lot of people, frankly, coming back to me in almost, I don't know if maybe indignifying is a bit of a strong word, but taken back a bit by the suggestion I had that somehow board service should be something that the organization strives towards understanding and making sure that board members feel that this is a rewarding experience and that they're getting more out of it, or at least in equal measure, that in which they put into it with their time, their talents, etc. Now, people know me really as Mr. Curious, okay? I ask a lot of questions, and I'm just personally really fascinated by the whole relationship between the degree of board satisfaction on a personal level and the effort it makes that are made by board directors to achieve harmonious relationship, moving forward on the mission, and all these kinds of things. I often ask, a little bit tongue-in-cheek when I speak to board directors, so why do you do this? Why do you put yourself through this hassle? And what I would say is that I've been getting, as I mentioned, mixed reactions as of late. When I'm pushing this whole concept of board service meaning something, and from a personal level. Some admitting that to me that it's not really a formal process. Most are saying like that. Others can say that I've been saying that, perhaps more can and should be done on this. However, as I've mentioned before, I'm finding that people are rather dismissive, that they're saying that that's not the reason why they volunteer, and as a result, other people shouldn't volunteer for that same reason. And I want to address that point today, okay? Never would I ever suggest, suggest that a board member be paid, financially compensated for that. That's not what I'm talking about here. Not at all, not at all. Volunteering and good volunteer leadership opportunities feed the soul. And that in itself is payment in itself. People do this because often enough they tell me that they feel like they want to be part of something going forward, and as such, they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. But let's not kid ourselves, okay? Your board role matters. And our sector doesn't need rubber stampers, grandstanders, or daydreamers. Passion isn't enough, unfortunately. It needs more than good intentions and passion. It needs leaders. Leadership is I've mentioned the last point as well, last 2 weeks ago, the fact is actually the source of a lot of reasons why we don't make, with the thousands and thousands of not-for-profit organizations out there, trade associations and the whole like, why we're not making as much progress, all the efforts in the years that they've been active there, we're not making that kind of process, because in the end, my theory, my hypothesis in all of this is that it comes down to the question of leadership. Passion withers on the vine over time, especially when you factor in the reality of career, family commitments, personal commitments, etc. Now, if people are an organization's most important resource, we hear this all of the time, particularly a lot of the HR professionals, and they stress this, the new age girls and that. They say very much about people first. Okay, why is it then that we are so little discussion on attracting and keeping good board volunteers engaged? Why is that? Why is even sometimes the mere suggestion that maybe we should even check in on folks and see how it's going raises a bit of defensiveness? Why are we not able to recognize that people come to a board and volunteer their leadership, and they come to volunteer roles for different reasons? And we should celebrate that and recognize that. When board diversity is recognized, nowadays, board diversity is recognized as being so important for good decisions, then how is it possible that we cannot simply just recognize the fact that board diversity means more than just having people of different backgrounds? It comes from people who have different reasons as well. And that also brings in good perspectives. And it doesn't always necessarily have to be for bad intentions or ill toward intentions. People have their own reasons for this, and we need to celebrate that and encourage that. Now, if the who is the most important factor as identified, as I mentioned the last time there, the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, and now particularly I recently finished the book, his book on Good to Great in the social sector. If the who is the most important factor, why is so little attention paid to A, recruiting the right people, or B, more importantly, keeping and engaging those that you already have on boards? You know, the trouble I see a lot of in the comments is, well, we have a competency-based board, and good for you if you do. But the fact remains is that there are still a lot of associations, nonprofits, and like that, where it's representative body, where they have various other requirements on this, where there has to be something, a question, you have to work with whom you're working, you deal with who you're working with. So there has to be something to engage in, and just simply passing it off isn't going to work. So after all, isn't it harder to create a new fan than to lift up and check in with those that you already have on board with your mission, whatever their motivations may be? Okay? My next live stream will be really on the link between tying the personal experience to good strategy and execution and governance. But for now, I really want you to know your thoughts on this. And by all means, leave your comments in all of this as well to get the word out that what you think. Am I nuts, or is it something? Are we onto something here? In line with this, I'm going to encourage you, as you see from the subtitle down below this video here, if you're a board leader, go to nonprofitboardsummit.org. I'm collecting comments for what's going to make, I'm hoping, will make a very transformative and engaging conference where we'll talk about some of the biggest issues about what can make this a better and stronger world through nonprofit board leadership. And more importantly, I'd love to know from you as to what would make a great conference as well. So again, check it out at nonprofitboardsummit.org, and well, I hope to see you out there.